Hours, episode number 216 for Pro NoCoders. We are here with our members Ben and Callum this morning, and we're going to get started in just a moment. But before we begin, if you aren't familiar with office hours, what it is we hold Zoom sessions 6 times per week. So Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific, Tuesdays, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, and Mondays a second session at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. And our members are allowed to come onto the Zoom session and ask any questions or raise any bubble topics that they want. And we do our best to answer them, or we talk through them, whatever. It's pretty laid back. We can't promise that we have the answers for you, but we do promise you won't suffer with your question alone, and we get it right most of the time. So if you have bubble questions, please go sign up at pronocoders.com today and sign up for office hours and come join us, because we'd love to see you. We want to get to know what you're building and help you get the most out of Bubble. Welcome, Ben and Callum. Thank you for being here.
Hey.
Hey. Callum, I think you said you wanted to show us something.
I think I did show you something.
Oh, well, can you show everybody?
Let me go back in time and do it again, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sorry, you know I like winding you up.
I know you do. It's okay.
Maybe you can teach me what nested comments are next time as well. So I built a search engine. If you click search, it's very simple. There's the search the web at the top. It was actually too simple, and it automatically searched without having a search button, but I didn't like that, so I put a search button. So let's search for, I don't know, office hours, which definitely isn't going to come up with this office hours. We're just using one of the rapid APIs, which I connected by myself, by the way, which I was very happy about.
We've changed the name of the membership. We're not going to call it office hours anymore. Office hours will be office hours, but we're pulling a Facebook and a Google, and we're moving to a developer membership.
Still a better name than Meta.
Or Alphabet. Like, what the heck?
Alphabet, there we go.
Alphabet.
Alphabet, yeah. Because it's like ones and zeros, you get it?
Sure, I do. I get it.
Well, yeah, the searches are taking quite a while, but other than that.
So how did you do this? Or is it your secret sauce and you don't want to share how you did it?
I can tell you how I did it. It's using, that'll be an API key. Just this plugin down here, web search, and then my API keys there as well. God damn it. Anyway, if you use the web search one, you'll get an API.
We totally scrapped the last office hours because of your API keys. So I don't know.
You can't do anything with them because it's on a free plan. There's nothing you can do with it. All you can do is run search.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, anyway, I've used the rapid API one, put the API key in there. This is web searching. For some reason it won't return 40, which is annoying, even though I've asked it to in the API panel and here. It only shows the top 10. But that used to be, the search string used to be what was in the input, but now it's the parent group's text. And what I do is I just do when I click search, it sends that text to the group and then shows what it is. That way the search button actually works, because otherwise it just automatically does the search as soon as you type anything in. But yeah, so
very cool.
Not entirely sure what Sergey Brin and Larry Page spent all that time doing. It's pretty easy, actually. Sorry.
You make it look so easy, Callum.
I think it's effectively values me at the same value as Google now, so we're all good.
There you go. Yeah. Well, now you just have to add advertising, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, good point. Yeah. I'll just add like a thing in there that does adverts. So yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they spent all their time doing. Maybe search was always that easy. They just took them ages to work out to put adverts in there.
It was selling all those ads that they put in the searches.
Absolutely.
Ben, do you have anything for today?
I don't really know.
No? Okay. I did. Yesterday morning, there was a question in the Pro NoCoders Facebook group. And I thought it was a good question. It was one that I was not familiar with. So I was inspired to get out of bed at 6 in the morning and go figure it out. Let's see if I can. That's a cute baby. Let's see here.
Okay. How old do you reckon it is?
She was born the week before Halloween. That's how old she is.
I was joking. It said 3 months at the top.
I don't know how long ago Halloween was. That's why I said it that way. I would have to do math to do that. I have to go count.
But funny enough, it was 3 months-ish.
All right. So what it was is she was asking, I think it's a she. So she's building messaging functionality, and she has group chats as well as one-on-one chats. And her issue was searching for existing conversation like this when she's creating a new conversation that includes me and John only, right? And she was pulling up, when she was searching conversations, since me and John are in both of these other conversations, she wasn't pulling up just like the one conversation she needed to match with to either be able to create a new conversation or continue the existing one. So I built a prototype. I actually built it in this one, but I think I added to a different one.
The question is, if there's a group chat with 3 of you and you want to create a group chat with just the 2 of you, how do you do that?
So the problem is that when the search for a conversation with those 2 people happens, since those 2 people were already in group conversations, it wasn't allowing her to, like, she didn't know the logic to show that there wasn't an existing conversation with just those 2 people.
Let's do a search for conversations where participants include current user and other user, and participant count is less than 3, right?
Essentially, but we had to account for a couple other things in there. Because when I went to do it, it wasn't as simple as what I was going to write to her, and that's why I got out of bed.
Good reason to get out of bed.
Like I was typing it with my thumbs on my phone and in bed, and I was like, I need to check and make sure if this actually works, because I saw the same person received like several answers from other people. None of them mentioning the count like you did, Callum, which is exactly where I went in my head, was like, oh, that's going to have to do with the count, right? So I have it working. I think I have it working the way that we wanted. So I think that's how you say that name. I'm not sure. All right. So I can find a conversation here. So I can click this one, and you can see I have a conversation with Mike. And then I can say, click in here, and I can click Josh, and that takes me to me, Mike, and Josh with another conversation I have. And then I have a conversation with no messages in it for me, Mike, Josh, and John. And I have one with Tommy, but I don't have one with Jacob. And so you can see the new conversation button shows up here. So I can click it, and I can create a new conversation with Mike, Josh, John, Tommy and Jacob. Although this was working yesterday, or it would show the new one. Let me see. Yeah, so now I have one. So I just need to somehow refresh it to the new conversation that was made. But yeah, but the cool thing is as I go through here, I can say, okay, I don't have one with Josh, and now I do. Why is it doing that? Weird. Now I do. I guess I need to send the conversation in here after that button click when I create the conversation. But yeah, so that's essentially it. It's just searching for the conversation that has the exact participants that are listed here plus me. So the way that I did this, it's actually, I was more involved than I thought it would be. So I have in the database, the structure for this is I have conversations. Conversations have the number of peeps, the people, that's a separate thing in the database I made. So it's a list of peeps. And then it has a count, which is a number of the list of peeps. The reason I had to do it this way was to be able to order the list the way that I wanted to. Callum, I'm going to mute you for a second. So then let's see, then we have the messages, which is just, it references the conversation and then it has text. And then we have the peep. I decided to do the peep because I didn't want to mess around with email addresses to create users. So the peep just has a name, right? And so in the app data, I made it in the app. I made this so you can create new peeps just by this little form here. And then they'll show up in this multi dropdown. So if I go to the design here, we've got this multi dropdown, which is just a search for peeps. And then I think peeps where the name does not equal me because I didn't want to include myself in this list. And then the current options name. Then we have a group conversation that contains the repeating group. The group conversation is searching for the conversations where the peeps contains me. That's what the search is. And then we filter it. So, and I did use an advanced filter, which I don't typically do, but in this case, there wasn't another way to get a contains list here for the filter. So this conversations peeps contains all of the peeps in this multi dropdown. And then I sorted by count, right? So if you remember on the conversations, I'm keeping a count of how many peeps are in this list. So I sorted by count, descending no, meaning, so I'm looking for the list to be how many participants are in there, because this is what's going to allow me to select the first one and know that it's the right conversation, right? So I'm looking for conversations that have me and whoever else I've selected here. I'm going to order that by the count descending no. So the first one is going to have the least amount of people. And that's the conversation I want to select. And that's the conversation whose messages I show in this repeating group. And clearly there is an issue here with this button here. I need to display data in group conversation, the result of step 1. And that will probably mess up the search for it. So I probably need to do a do when. When an input's value is changed. We need to reset data in group conversation. Actually, reset data in group conversation here as well. Let's see if it works a little better now. So then the big question was, how are you going to show that you need to create a new conversation? So this group that's holding this button has two conditions on it. The first is when the count of the conversations that meet the same search as on this group is greater than the count of peeps here plus 1 to include myself. And this is not empty, then we're going to show this button, this group here. So essentially that's saying if I don't have a conversation already that includes just those people and myself, then I want to show the button. And then I also put this one here, search for conversations, filter count is less than 1, and the multi dropdowns count isn't 0. So also if I don't have any conversations with those people at all, then I want to show that button. And yeah, I think I put a condition on this group, which is very similar. So if it's that I don't want to show, like the opposite of that, I don't want to show it. So, or I do. I don't know if this is making any sense. It makes sense in terms of working on the page. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. But we've got, I do not have a conversation with Sam. And now I do. So that worked. And then Sam and Tommy, I do not have a conversation with Sam and Tommy, or John, or Josh, or Mike, all of us together, right? But I do have a conversation with just Mike and Josh, and Josh and John, and Tommy, and Jacob, and probably not Sam. Yep. So I think this is working the way that was prescribed.
What's the use case for it? Would you use that like as an internal tool sort of thing?
Yeah, so that was what I was thinking was, because my initial answer here didn't include the part of, it didn't include one of these parts here, but like what if, I mean, if we're talking about a messaging app, generally you're going to create a new conversation between two people at the point that they're connected. Right? So you're not creating a new conversation from scratch based on the user saying, I want to create a conversation with this person. But the person didn't tell me what the use case was. They just kind of explained the problem they were having. And so I thought I would try to tackle the problem since I thought it could be done. But like, let's imagine that it's like a network. You're doing a networking application and all of the people that are in the application that are part of your company would be the people that you would see listed here. And you want to create a conversation between you and someone else, or you and a group of people, but you don't want to create duplicate conversations, right? You want to be able to find the same conversations before. So that's the only like Yeah. So somebody came in here. I opened this up. It's public. So so if anybody is watching this and you want the link, you can email me at team@ProNoCoders, and for the next couple of days, the February sandbox will be public, so you can go in and see how all of this was done, in case it's interesting.
I have to go in 4 minutes for a call with Mark. I do have a quick question if you're done covering this. It's a really simple. So like some things on, let me show on the screen. So like this bit here, the description for the web. So obviously some of them are really long and some of them are really short. I don't want it just to be one line. So obviously I haven't cut the content off. Is there a way just to do it for like set the number of lines of text it allows?
Wait, explain the problem one more time.
So obviously here I've made it so it's one line worth of text, but I haven't done cut off content. So obviously some of them have, in terms of the description of the site that it's showing, have masses of text, and other ones have like 4 lines. Now I'm fine with the 4-line ones, but the 20-line ones take up loads of room on the page and the UI is pretty poor. So I want to just, is there a way of cutting off the content, but allowing like 4 lines worth of it? Because cut off the content only cuts it off at the size of.
You can do that, and you can truncate it to a specific character count.
That's the one. I knew there was a way to do it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, I better run. Have fun.
You too. Hope your meeting goes well.
Thanks. I might be back in half an hour if you guys are still on.
Okay. Hey Ben, you got something for us?
Yeah, I had an idea for a build, and I'll show you real quick while we're just hanging out.
Yeah, just you and me.
Yeah. So I'm trying to build an order form. As per usual, I've gotten rid of pop-ups and just have this sliding floating group that I'm using. But I want to figure out the best way to do it. So in the database, there's a stock order details and stock product details. So an order will hold a multitude of products, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. But then I will also want to provide, like, when someone clicks on their order form, the tracking number and all those kind of details, which will be editable from the brand but not from the talent, and then an update like that it's been received, which will be editable from the talent but not from the brand. But then also, like, they can enter in a list of stock details and hit submit, and it creates a new order. What would be your advice on the best way to do that?
Sorry, I muted myself because there's a plane going over the house. But okay, let me see if I understand. So the user can click order, and it'll open up the order form, and it's related to the brand that they were, or brand or talent that they were on before they clicked that button. Is that right?
Well, it'll come from a message. So the brand will basically create an order form with a click of a button and send it to the talent.
Oh, got it. Okay. So the brand is going to create an order form, and so it's always going to be related to the brand. Right? And then what are I can't, since it's cutting off the text, what are the different things that we're adding here?
Well, I created it originally in a pop-up, which I now want to get rid of. But it was basically a, edit, delete row of because there might be 10 rows of product they want. Product name, type, ISRC, which is just a product code, color, if they need that, product link, and then quantity.
Okay. And how are they selecting these things? Is it like drop downs?
No, it's all just straight off. Like they'll go onto the brand's website and find them and then enter them in. So I'm actually not holding any details of any products in the database. They just have to create an order form.
Okay. So, okay, the use case is I'm a talent and I'm talking to a brand, and the brand sends me an order form, and I go to the brand's website and find all of the things that I want to order and fill out the form for all of the things that I want to order.
Correct.
One at a time. Okay.
Yes.
But I don't know how many, but it's going to be. So if you go into your database, you've got stock order products. Is that right?
Yep. So there is product.
Okay. So that's your line item.
That's the line item. Correct.
And then the
that's
stock order
ordered.
details is the order. Okay.
Correct.
Got it. And so you have a plus button to add a new stock order product to the stock order detail.
Correct.
Okay. So that you're going to show a repeating group. You're going to create one stock order product when you first create the stock order detail. And then it's going to be shown in a repeating group. And at the top of the repeating group or somewhere, you're going to have a plus button so that they can add a new one after they're done typing the details of the first one. So in the stock order product data type, let me just see that when you get a second, when your app cooperates.
Yeah.
So in your data types, if you go down to the bottom to the stock order product.
Yep. I don't get this bubble's been running fine this morning all of a sudden.
And then we've got so size, color, text. Project is not relevant. That's not what they're going to be entering, right? Or are they going to be
No.
selecting from a project? No. Okay. So they're going to enter the size as a text, the color as a text, the product line as a text.
Yep.
The quantity as a number. They're going to enter the ISRC themselves?
Yes.
Okay. And the name themselves and the type themselves?
Yes.
Okay, so those are the things. Okay, cool. So yeah, so the best way to do this, I agree with you, is going to be auto binding in a repeating group. So the first thing that needs to happen is obviously the creation of the stock order details item, the record.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time as you create that record, you're also going to want to create the first stock order product that belongs to that thing.
Okay.
So you'll create both basically in two actions right next to each other.
Yep.
Then in your order form, what you want to have is a repeating group of type stock order products that have that stock order detail, right? Mm-hmm. So you're, and in the stock order detail, you're probably also referencing back. So you could do it either way. You could do a search for stock order. So I'm just going to call it products. You can just do a search for products where with that detail, or you can do that details products, right? For your repeating group. Am I making sense?
Yep.
Okay. And then do you want me to do something on my screen?
Sure. Yep.
So let's see here. Share my screen. All right. So here we're going to have Okay, so the click order is going to reference, it's going to be associated with a brand. I don't know if we have a brand.
You can do it in my work in progress if you want, if that makes it easier.
Sure, probably does. Let's do. I've been there before.
What was that?
Because it's in my URL history. I was like, I've been there before.
Just a few times.
Just a few times. Okay. So I'm going to make a, oh, and this is a new responsive. That's fine. So make a group. Is it making like 20 different groups now?
Mm.
Masking is a real question.
Is it still making 20 different groups?
Yeah, I was just asking, is it going to make like 20 different groups because I just made a group?
Maybe. It's been pretty good today.
Okay. So the type of group here is going to be, wait, are these
No.
all deprecated? Okay. Stock order detail. So one thing I would do is just as a small thing that I do is in my data tabs for my custom data types, I always make it singular. Because we're just describing the name of like what type of record it is, right? So stock order detail instead of stock order details and products. And that way when Bubble does the pluralization for lists, it doesn't look weird. It also just helps me keep track of what's singular and what's multiple. So the data source on this would stay empty because you're going to populate it when you click the button that opens up the order form, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then the next piece of the puzzle here is putting a repeating group inside of this group. And this is going to be of type stock order products, and the data source can be the stock orders, stock order products, right? And then what we want to do here is for this one, I'm going to go out to layout, make this 100 instead, and this can be 750 instead, and we'll make it a little bit taller. So probably want to put margin here. Give me just a little bit of margin. There we go. That's better. And then so now we have the repeating group set to the right type, and it's going to be populated by the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you create the detail and the first stock order, what they will see is just one item here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to have a bunch of inputs because they're all going to be autobound. So an example of the auto binding is going to look like this. So type here, and this will be the initial. We're going to click this button here, and we want it to be the name. And whenever you add auto binding, it requires that you have privacy rules. So you're going to come to the privacy rules section down to the stock order products. And we're just going to define a rule right now that's going to allow auto binding. So I'm just going to call it auto binding. This is not to be confused with a real privacy rule because it's actually giving more permissions. It's not restricting any permissions. So I'm just going to say when current user is current user, because that will always be true no matter what. Then we're going to allow them to do auto binding. And we're going to allow them to do auto binding of size, quantity, color, ISRC. Are they entering the product link themselves, I'm guessing?
Yes. Yep.
And this project and the product type. Okay.
And then, yep, that's right.
Yep. So they're going to be able to do auto binding on all of these things. Now, at some point, you're going to have to come back and implement privacy rules. You should probably plan 2 days for this work.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah. If you start with strict privacy rules and only let them up with a lot of, I don't know, awareness as you're doing it, then you build those 2 days into the work as you're working. But I understand that it's hard to do that when you're just trying to build something that works. It's a chore at the end to go and tie everything up with privacy rules later.
Cool.
But okay, back to our design here. Now I have this type here is Autobound. So I'm just going to do this and say product name in the placeholder, right? And you could leave it empty as you create it. The only thing when you're creating the first product is you'll want to make sure that it's linked back to the correct order and any of those other known fields that this person can't edit, right? So I'm just going to copy and paste this, drag it over here, and we'll do a different thing. We'll say details, like product link. And then we just change this, say product link. Okay, so that's a good demonstration of how you're going to get all of these things. And I'll let you worry about the design and fitting everything the way that you want. And I'll also let you worry about the labels if you wanted to have labels in there. But the next piece of it is how are you going to add to this list in this order form? And the way to do that is I'm going to use an icon just for convenience. I'm going to put an icon right above the repeating group, and I'll make it a plus button. Right, and I'm going to group this in a fixed container. And all it's going to do is it's going to go and create a new product where the stock order detail is the parent group stock order detail, and then whatever other fields that you wanted to set on it to start with. And then when you click that button, probably what I want to do here is have these arranged. Oops, I'm going to undo that. Is probably have these arranged. You could have it added at the top or at the bottom. I would probably, if I'm going to have it added at the bottom, I would probably have this button at the bottom. Like you could have a create new at the bottom, and then it shows up at the bottom of the list, right? And that's how it works. And then you don't have to worry about clicking save or anything. Every time they change any of these things, it would automatically be saved into the database. Maybe after maybe a condition that you would want on each of these would be something like when the current cell stock order product details complete is yes, right? Like I would put a complete button,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe don't let them edit it, right?
Okay.
Like
Yep.
just disable the input so that way when they go back to look at it, they can't change it.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And so you would have, in order to make that happen, you would have like a save button at the bottom, and they could click save to submit it, or submit and submit it, and it would flip the whole thing to like a status or something of ordered or something. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, auto binding is super powerful, and I think that you can have auto binding, like if you're worried, like, oh, but I want people to click save. Like sometimes I'll do auto binding even with a save button on it. The save is just more for user experience, but there are times I've wanted to know what the changes were, or to save whatever's happening on the page, right? And yeah, I like auto binding a lot. If you're ever using, sometimes there's a little bit of a delay with auto binding because it has to run the workflow to save the new input. I've had times when people wanted to like know a character count or something like that, and saving it to the database and recalculating the count wasn't fast enough. So we've used instant text in that so that we can grab the character count more speedily. But outside of that, auto binding is great. It's also really good for those times when, like, one of the big challenges that you might have when you're doing something like this is, I have a repeating group of the products and the person's adding them to the cart, but how do you do the quantity piece of that, right?
Mm.
That's been a challenge, like, because getting information from inputs that are in a repeating group can be challenging, because clicking that save button and then trying to grab all of this information and recursively add it or something, or change things, that can be really hard. But if you just have the quantity button here and it's auto bound, you don't have to worry about getting the information back out of the repeating group. It's just automatically done.
Cool.
Yeah. What do you think? We done with office hours for today?
That's all I've really got. It's going to be, I'm sure I'll have more auto binding questions tomorrow.
Sure.
Or this afternoon. There's another session today, isn't there?
Yep. 7:30 p.m. this evening. We'll have another session. So the second session of Mondays. All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap up office hours and move into the after hours section of the morning. After hours is what happens when we turn off the recording and we turn on the cameras. And yeah, it's a little more informal, and things that you need to share that might include API keys, like Callum likes to do, that you don't want the rest of the world seeing. That can happen on on after hours. So if you'd like to join after hours, you have to be a member of office hours, which means going to pronocoders.com and signing up to become an office hours member today, although we're changing the name of it. I'm giving everybody fair warning. Any second now, Pablo is going to deploy our new landing page live, and our membership is now going to be known as the developer membership. And it includes office hours, but it includes a bunch of other developer access as well. So we will see you this evening. Thank you, everybody.